This is the Genesis GV70, and it's been mine for the last 10 days. And in this video, I'm going to tell you all about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and whether or not I think it's worth the £85,000 price tag. So, like I said, this car has been mine for the last 10 days. A really great opportunity given to me by Genesis to test out this amazing car. As many of you will know, I own a Porsche, a petrol-powered Porsche, but I am a huge fan of the electric vehicle. I think they offer so much to so many people, and I do find them a very interesting prospect. This one is, without doubt, the best one I've ever driven. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Genesis is the luxury brand to Hyundai. So what Lexus is to Toyota, this is what Genesis is to Hyundai. It takes all of the best bits of all those cars that we know and love and puts them together in a luxury format. Where, of course, I want to begin is with the exterior, the way this thing looks. Because although at first glance you may think it looks like a sort of generic looking car, you do start to notice the Bentley style inspirations. That's because some of the guys that worked at Bentley have moved across onto Genesis, and you can definitely see the inspiration. It's got a very imposing front end with the traditional style of headlights that are fitted to all Genesis models. Now this is classed as a mid-size SUV, but it's really long. It's a really big car, allegedly in the same class as a Porsche Macan, and I think it offers something a little bit different. It certainly looks more classy than a Macan. I think it's more discreet, and it does look more expensive. Round the back, it's business as usual for a Genesis. It's got the double taillight design, which again, I really like, and it's a very clean and crisp design. A lot of people have said it does look like a Bentley if a Bentley was on like GTA or something. It looks like a fake Bentley, if you like, but I think we'll take that as a compliment, really. The best bit about this car, however, is the interior. So let's jump on in, talk about what the Genesis has on the inside that makes this so special. Jumping inside the Genesis GV70 is where it starts to look more of an interesting prospect. The outside, although looks classy, isn't all that interesting. The inside, however, in this gorgeous white leather, looks absolutely stunning. Not only is it stunning to look at, it's also the most comfortable car I've ever sat in. These seats are exceptional with heaters, coolers, and even massagers built into them. This car is fully loaded, and I want to talk about some of the options that it has, which makes it worth that £85,000 price tag. The main one I want to talk about is what is called the Innovation Pack. Now this is a £3,500 option. Seems like a lot, but you do actually get quite a bit. Up front, you get this 12.3-inch TFT display, which is fantastic. I'll show you a bit more on that later, but it's super responsive, never lags, never crashes. Definitely the best infotainment I've come across. It's got a lot of highway assist and collision detection, which again, not something you actually need, but it's something I'm a huge fan of. We're all capable of not paying attention when we're driving. This car will bail you out in those situations. If you happen to be looking the wrong way or looking at your sat-nav or trying to change your music and the car in front does an emergency stop, this car will respond. It will pull you to a complete stop, and we've had it activate a couple of times. Maybe a little bit keen on the car's front, but it's nice to know that it's there for you. The next thing the Innovation Pack brings is full surround view cameras. Now these make it so easy to get in and out of parking spaces and maneuver this car around. Although you get great visibility with great wing mirrors and a really good view out of the back, nothing beats a surround view camera. These are so accurate, so detailed, and really do make all the difference when you're trying to navigate those narrow country roads and tightly packed car parks. An interesting feature this car has is self-parking. Now, I've had a little bit of experience with Genesis's doing the self-parking, and they're not all that great at it. This is no exception. It's bay parking, although it will get into the space, is like watching someone who can't drive having 15 attempts at parking. And if you sat in the car while it's doing it, it's pretty embarrassing. Interestingly, you can get out of the car, which I would suggest you do. That way you can stand around and pretend it's not you and it's not your car. The car will reverse park into a bay or even do a parallel park without you being in the car. You just have to be nearby with the key fob. Super clever stuff, and when it works correctly, it is quite amazing. The car is fitted with what they call ergomotion seats. It's got many adjustable ways you can do the seat. I mean, there's infinite ways you can have this seat positioned. It will go really high, really close to the wheel, but also you can get it just right. Once you've got it just right, you can press a button which gives you a full massage. There's many settings on that. You can have it up to 20 minutes, 10 minutes. It will automatically adjust your posture every hour of being in the car. Really clever stuff. And honestly, the massaging function is a game changer. I always thought that heated seats were the biggest thing, the most important thing for a car for me, and I've changed my mind. Not only do I want heated seats, I want cooled, and I also want massagers, because it's totally changed the way a long journey pans out for me. I get out feeling refreshed. My back doesn't hurt. So massive win from Genesis on that front. These seats are honestly, I've never been in a car like it. They are the best seats I've ever sat in. Unfortunately, they don't come cheap. So to have these Napa leather white seats with the comfort pack, you're looking at nearly £4 all in. It's a lot of money, but I think it's an option that you need to tick. It totally transforms the car and makes it feel like a proper luxury premium car. This car is also fitted with the second row comfort pack, so the seats will recline, but they also have heaters in them too. I think that's great if you've got regular passengers on that rear seat. Like, to have heated rear seats in a car is truly luxurious. There's not many cars that you can find that in, so that's really cool as well. And I think I'd probably just go for all of the interior comfort packs, because yes, it bumps the price up, but the total price of the car, when you compare it to its competitors, isn't all that bad. In terms of exterior options, this car is of course fitted with Capri Blue paint. That comes in at £750, and it's a beautiful colour and really suits the car. The car is also fitted with 19-inch wheels, which are standard. You can go up to 20s, but it will affect not only ride comfort, but your range as well. So I'd probably stick with these standard wheels. This car is fitted with the optional sunroof. And again, I would definitely pick this. It's just a key thing in most mid-size SUVs. Everyone looks for it when buying one. So it would help keep the car attractive when it comes to selling it on at the other end. It's also just really nice to have. Brightens up the interior. And it fully opens as well, which is really nice. Last option this car has listed is what they call vehicle to load. It's £900, which is a lot of money, but it allows you to charge up other electric vehicles with this car. So you can plug another electric vehicle into it and charge that one up too. This battery pack is really huge, and it will essentially charge another car. It's also got a plug socket in the back, a 3-pin plug, so you can plug your laptop into it, your coffee maker, your blender, whatever you want to do in your car. You could even plug a lawnmower into this and mow the front lawn. There's so many things you could do with that plug. I think it's something that I probably would choose. You don't necessarily think about it at first, but once you've driven this car and owned it for a while, there's probably a lot of uses for that plug. So I think without any further waffle from me, let's take this car out, have a drive. Let me tell you all about what it's like to live with, and also how much power it's got, because I think that's going to surprise a few of you. So as with all Genesis models that I've driven, they're super easy to drive. Nothing like anything complicated. Everything's to hand. Everything's exactly where you'd expect it to be. Very conventional. That's the first thing I want to mention about this awesome car, is the fact that a lot of new EVs on the market tend to go down that futuristic look. They want it to look like something out of the future. They don't want it to look like anything that went before it. And they seem to be obsessed with touchscreen panels. And that is where Genesis differ. Genesis are clearly aiming at an older, more mature audience, and I'm here for that. As much as I enjoy my tech, it's nice to have some physical buttons. That is where Genesis excel. They have fitted this car with tons of actual buttons. Lots of nice haptic feedback on the touchscreens, and everything works beautifully. That's not to say that these cars aren't loaded with tech. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, which is kind of important, is the innovation pack comes with full autonomous driving. This car will sit on a motorway quite happily, keeping between the lanes, tracking the car in front, and even when you indicate, the car will steer, overtake, and you can pull back in without touching anything other than the indicator. You do have to hold onto the steering wheel, but not very tightly. It does feel like the car is driving itself. Takes the burden out of long journeys, and when we took the last Genesis all the way to Paris, it meant there was times when I was driving for 2 hours and not having to do anything. I got out feeling refreshed and ready to tackle some of the more complicated roads leading up to Disneyland. It's a total game changer, and I think that's where autonomous vehicles really come into their own. It's taking out that boring bit, allowing you to enjoy or concentrate on the more complicated city driving or country roads. This car, of course, has tons of soundproofing, laminated glass, and all the usual things that we've come to expect from EVs. Couple that with not having an internal combustion bumbling away. This thing is like nothing else. What's made even better is it's fitted with an optional Lexus sound system. Now that has noise cancelling, and it has little tiny microphones all around the car, listening out and pumping in a white noise essentially to cancel out any noises from the outside. Pretty much like the same you get from really expensive headphones. It makes a huge difference, and it feels like you're in some sort of sound chamber. It's very bizarre. It's eerily quiet in here, and it does make for a very relaxing journey. Even at motorway speeds, wind noise is kept well under control, and although there's a little bit more tyre noise from these Michelins than I would like, they offer so much grip in on tarmac and also gravel that I think it's probably a trade-off I'd be willing to take. So the range on this car, that's pretty much what everyone wants to know with EVs. Now the range is claimed at 283 miles. We've not really been getting that. We've been getting around 230, mixed driving, having a little bit of fun when I want to, and also taking it steady. So I don't think that's overly bad for something that weighs as much as this. This car weighs over 2.3 tons. It's a very big, heavy car. And with it not being a bespoke EV, it's probably not the most aerodynamically efficient car there is. I think there are better to be had, and even Genesis themselves do make a bespoke car. But that being said, 230 miles real-world range is not to be sniffed at. And with the charging capacity of this car being able to take up to 350 kilowatt charger, if you can find one, charging doesn't take long either. In terms of performance, that's where this car kind of surprised me. It shouldn't have as much power as it does. It doesn't look like it's a very powerful car. And when they put the number plate GV70 FUN on it, I did wonder why it said that. I wasn't expecting this car to be as fast as it is, but the headline figures are quite shocking. So this car has 483 horsepower, available from 0 and available from almost nothing because there's no revs in an electric car. It's just, you want some power, bam, you've got it. It's totally obscene. Torque figure is again a totally mesmerizing 700 Newton meters of torque, meaning this car pretty much at any speed will drop whatever's behind it. 0 to 60 is quoted at around 4 seconds and a top speed of 146 miles an hour. If I chased this car in my Porsche, I wouldn't see which way it went. It's totally crazy. The fun thing with this car, and I think the best part of it for me, is driving it along steadily in eco mode. The car feels not sluggish, but it feels just pleasant to drive. You're never lacking power, but it doesn't feel frightening. It's not too jerky. It's smooth, silky, and relaxing. There are a number of modes that you can cycle through, and one being sport. Once you pop this car into sport mode, things change a little bit. So the suspension firms it up, the car steering weights up, everything is more keen, and even the bolsters of these special comfort seats squeeze in around you to hold you in position. It does add to the sense of drama. Then, when you put your foot down, it's a lot more keen to go. Now this will affect your range because you're going to be more likely to be pushing it a little bit too hard. Eco mode is where I usually sit it. Eco mode is what I'd stick it in all of the time. and only when you need the extra power would I put it in sport mode. This car does have a trick up its sleeve though, something that's been spoken about online a lot. Leave this car in eco mode and drive it as you would. And then at the bottom of the steering wheel, there's a button called boost. And we all love a boost button. I love a boost button, anything like that, because I'm a child inside. Press that and it releases the full 483 horsepower. And that is shockingly quick. Now I'm going to do a demonstration, find a little bit of straight road, pull over and I'll press it and we'll do a launch, because honestly, I won't be able to convey it on camera, but genuinely it's frightening. It doesn't so much build, it just slams you into your seat. So we're just stopping now. Bearing in mind this is an eco mode, you don't need to press sport mode. Press the boost button, you get 10 seconds of power. You can hear everything going flying in the car. The car was scrambling around for grip and now we're at levels, speed that you'd probably be banned from driving. Honestly, the way this thing picks up is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It doesn't handle the best, and if you put it in sport mode, you are going to get the more firmed up suspension. You are going to probably have a better time than what I just did then. But this is how I drive the car. I drive it in eco mode, and when I really need to, I press the boost button and do my overtakes. Seems to be the best way. It's also handy to surprise a few people. So you press that boost button and the car immediately hugs you. The dials go red and a countdown timer appears for 10 seconds. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have boost continuously. You can. And people have commented on this saying it seems a bit strange. Why can't you have boost mode all the time? And for me, I think it's just to try and condition you into driving efficiently. If you drive this car in eco mode, then you're going to get the best range out of it. If you drive it in sport mode, or you drive it like your hair's on fire all the time, you're going to get through that battery so quickly. It's totally unnecessary, and you're not going to get fun out of the car. This is not a sports car. It's not designed to go on B roads and drive flat out. It's designed as an everyday commuter vehicle. It's designed as a long-distance cruiser, a comfortable car, a luxury vehicle. And that boost button just makes it a little bit exciting. And it is handy because it does deploy a huge amount of power, which will get you out of any situation on the road. There's very few cars that will keep up with this with internal combustion engines, and it's scary how quick it goes. But that's basically how I drive the car. So the point for me of boost mode is just to make sure that you're driving efficiently and only using that extra power for 10 seconds when you need it. Let's talk about handling then. So while we're on these twisty bits, I want to talk to you about handling. Now, as I've touched on earlier, this car is not for B-road blasting. It's a luxury vehicle. And as much as I've enjoyed driving it, I haven't particularly enjoyed the country roads. It's not suited for it. It's quite wobbly, although very comfortable. It doesn't really feel like you're holding onto the road that great. Now, there's some nice steering feel, which is quite surprising in a car like this. Normally, they're quite numb. This one does. You can feel the road and you get a little bit of feedback. But in terms of handling, it's a little bit on the wobbly side. But because of its slightly wobbly handling and all of its tech, including a laser which scans the road in front and slackens off the suspension before you get to a bump, this car is just unbelievably comfy. Like magic carpet levels of comfort. Bearing in mind this car isn't even on air suspension, I've never sat in anything quite like it. So performance, very good. Not sporty, but frightening when you want it to be. Comfort, I mean, what else is there to say other than absolute perfection? When it comes to its rivals, I do think it has them over a barrel. Not only does the price point actually come in at less when you take into account all of the tech this car has, but I don't think they're built the same. I think this has got a much higher build quality. This build quality is up there with Bentley. And the Germans really do need to up the game if they think they're going to beat Genesis. This is a super exciting time for the brand, and it's only going to bring out more and more exciting cars and more luxurious cars. There are as many cars that I've driven and borrowed over the years. Since starting YouTube, I've had the pleasure of driving so many amazing cars, luxury cars and sports cars. And I often leave those sort of drives and think, would I take it home? Or maybe I've driven 10 cars that day and I think, which one would I actually take home with me? Which one would I want to live with? If someone gave it to me, which one would I have? And it's often quite tricky, and there's often a lot of cars that I wouldn't want necessarily. But this one, I don't want to hand it back. This car goes on Friday, and it's Wednesday now, and I'm going to be really sad to let it go. I've really enjoyed this car. It fits my lifestyle so perfectly. My wife has loved the car, absolutely loved it. And my little girl, she has really enjoyed the car too. She says it's the quiet car, because that's what it is. And that's really sweet. She very much enjoys the car, and she enjoys the speed as well. But I want to talk about also the drawbacks. Now, this car isn't without its flaws. As much as I love the car and I have enjoyed every single second of driving it, there are a few things that I've noticed that maybe aren't so perfect. The first one is the fact that this car is not a bespoke EV. It's a Genesis vehicle, which they normally fit petrol internal combustion engines to, and they've made it electrified. What this means is it has got a few drawbacks in terms of interior space and also frunk space. Underneath that huge bonnet, you'd expect to find a decent frunk, like on a Porsche. But no, it's filled with motors and batteries and whatever else that you need to make an electric vehicle. It's not packaged quite as well as things like a Tesla, so therefore it's not as practical. Under there you've got a place basically just to store a charging cable and nothing else. In the back, the boot floor is very high. There's no lip, which is good for loading stuff in, but it's not the biggest boot. And I do feel like it's because of all these batteries that are laden underneath the car. Now, if it was a bespoke EV, they probably would have packaged it a little bit better and got more use out of the space. The same goes up front here. We've got this huge transmission tunnel down the middle. Normally that would be gaping amounts of storage, or there'd be nothing there at all in a lot of bespoke EVs. But in this, it's just like a conventional car. I don't know what they're storing under there, but I do feel like they could have given you a little bit more interior storage for something so big. But other than that, the car is basically perfection in my eyes. How well this interior will last with a toddler and a family, I'm not too sure. Maybe, although this is the spec I like the look of, this interior isn't probably something I'd choose. White leather just looks like a recipe for disaster to me. So, would I consider a Genesis GV70 electric? Well, I think you'll all know what my answer is going to be to this. Of course, I would definitely consider one. The thing that puts me off electric cars in general in terms of buying one is, of course, the depreciation. It'll be interesting to see how these go, because Taycans have just bottomed out. They're now worth 40 grand. People have lost 100 grand on those cars. Now, if these go the same way, this will make an amazing used car bargain, and it's something that I would genuinely consider in the future. But in terms of a brand, I would love to get myself into a Genesis. I would love a Genesis to sit alongside my Porsche in my garage, because, yeah, I think it would just fit my lifestyle. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this rather quick review on the Genesis GV70. What do you think of it? Do you like it? Are you hating electric cars? What do you think of the styling? It's a new brand, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.